You pick, Matt. I don't know.
All right. We'll start with Jeff in Florida. You're on with Dave Warnock and Matt Dillahunty.
Oh, hello. Good evening. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Dave. Yeah, sorry to hear about what you're going through.
Thank you.
I kind of missed the... Well, before I get my question, if I can ask Dave a question.
Sure.
Is it okay?
You bet.
So basically, I kind of missed the beginning of what the conversation was, but you're saying you don't believe in God anymore because you have an incurable disease?
No.
No, categorically no. Yeah,
That couldn't be as far from...
Yeah, you missed an important part of everything here. I quit believing in God about 8 years ago after a long and arduous process of discovery and examination and thought and questioning and came to a painful conclusion that the faith that I'd given myself to for 35 plus years was not true. So that happened many years ago. I'd settled into my understanding, my worldview as an atheist, and I've been living that way for quite some time. It was only this year, the beginning of this year, February of this year, that I found out I had ALS, a terminal illness.
Oh.
So the two are not related whatsoever.
So what was the main conclusion that you came to that your faith was wrong?
I began to see that after a long period of time of looking and wondering and things that didn't add up and questions that didn't have answers and a God that never showed up and a God that was silent and a God that was hiding, I realized that the God that I thought was there all my life has not been there, is not there, and has never been there. And essentially, I ran out of reasons to believe and saw no evidence to suggest that there's a God actively involved with humanity on any level.
Like God was silent.
No, he's not there.
Like the Bible says, you would have prayers, but they would just hit the ceiling, and there's nobody there.
The Bible says prayers hit the ceiling? I don't remember that verse.
It really doesn't. It says whatever you pray for, believe it, you receive it, and you shall have it. That's what it says.
It says wherever two or more you gathered in my name, whatever you ask for, you will receive, which means no two true believers have ever prayed for world peace or an end to hunger or anything.
Yeah. The Bible promises promises over and over again answers to prayers, and yet the human experience indicates that those prayers are never answered, and that then we make excuses for that by saying, well, God says
no, or
not
wait.
Yet, or wait, or I'm testing you, or you don't have enough faith, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, no, there is a lamenter whose prayers felt like they were hitting the ceiling. Was his feeling. So what were you in the Word of Faith movement?
There was a short period of time, my early Christian experience, that the Word of Faith was a big influence. The Kenneth Copeland, Kenneth Hagin, Charles Capps, all those guys, name it, claim it, believe it, receive it, those kind of things, which didn't happen either.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of my last church. I got kicked out because they were heading into the Word of Faith movement, and I told the pastor, I said, you're going to answer to God one day, because when these people find out this crap doesn't work, you're going to answer to God, because they're going to walk away from God.
Yeah.
Except that we don't have any evidence that they will ever answer to a God.
Mm-mm.
Well, I know that's...
And by the way,
by the way,
this sort of doctrinal dispute that you're talking about, where you have a fundamental disagreement, it's the reason there's over 1,000 denominations that all identify as Christian that disagree on everything.
And they all think they're right.
And here's the thing. While you are confident that your view of this is different from the pastor that you were chastising and calling out, where's your God?
100 others would have disagreed with your position and would have cast you out for a different reason.
I mean, if God has an opinion about which denomination has actually got doctrine right, why doesn't he say so?
Well, my opinion is based on proper hermeneutical principles.
Well, how do you... Okay, stop. First of all, saying the proper hermeneutical principles is already mildly dishonest, in the sense that you don't just... that's like saying, hey, I've concluded there is no God, and it's properly logical of me to do so.
Well, no, there are proper principles for interpreting any literature. I mean, if you're going to be
but your view of what's proper is going to be different than someone else's view of what's proper. The Word of Faith guy is going to conflict with the Calvinist.
Not only that, not only that, but at the end of the day, we're talking about, here's the Bible, and you're talking about how to correctly interpret
how to rightly divide the word of truth.
All right, let me give you an example.
How can you prove that your interpretation is correct?
All right, let me give you an example with Kenneth Hagin. One of his main teachings is where Jesus says, have faith in God.
Yeah, so now you're approaching a two-okay fallacy. I don't care what he said. No. I'm asking you about how do you know that you're right?
Hermeneutical. I'm talking about when you're interpreting the Bible, you have to interpret what the Bible actually says.
No, I actually don't. But see, this is the problem. There's two big problems here, Jeff. Interpretation is by definition imbuing some understanding. Doesn't matter if you're using whatever you would call proper hermeneutic principles or not. The other thing is, even if you got to a correct understanding of what the person originally wrote, despite the fact that you don't have originals, you don't know who that person is, even if you got to that, that doesn't tell you not anything at all about whether they were correct in what they wrote.
Jeff, here's the deal about the Bible. If that's God's instruction book to us, and it was that important for him to communicate to us, and 2,000 years later we're still arguing about what it means, couldn't he have done a little better job of communicating to his people? I mean, seriously. We're arguing about that 2,000 years later. And the Christians can't even get it right. You guys argue about it among yourselves. God has done a really, really poor job of communicating the life-changing message to humanity, the message that all of life depends upon for eternal salvation, and God couldn't communicate it any better than that.
Well, it sounds like to me that you two are arguing for a reader-based interpretation. And that's the problem with...
No.
You mean no?
I just got done saying that even if you correctly understood the author's original intent, that is independent of whether or not they were correct in what they were saying.
Right.
If the author's original intent was that Jesus is part of a Trinity and divine, that doesn't tell you whether or not that's true. That just tells you what that person intended to convey. I'm talking about not a reader interpretation. I'm talking about throw hermeneutics out the fucking window and let's talk about epistemology. Let's talk about whether or not we have good reason to believe that something is true. And what's happened here is that you've been convinced, because you already believed, that there is some method by which you can get to a correct understanding. Where is your God to vouchsafe for your particular understanding of the Bible?
No, it's just basic literary interpretation skills. I mean, you learn it in third grade, fourth grade.
It's like we're speaking two different languages.
Yeah, we are.
Why is it you can't answer the question that I put to you?
We're speaking two different languages.
Where is your God to let me know that you are correct in your interpretation?
Well, I'm not here to say where is my God. I'm just talking about when you're reading the Bible. It doesn't say the things that the Word of Faith teachers were telling.
I don't give a rat's ass about the Word of Faith. You brought that up, and I suspected the instant you brought it up is that you are desperately looking for a way to say that he didn't have the right faith, but you do. And I almost called you out on it then, but every word you've said since then has demonstrated that I was correct.
No. What I'm saying is that what he was told was not true.
No, we're not. I wasn't.
Can I?
Yes, please. I wondered how long it would take for him to do that.
To come back and say, no, my point was that what he was told wasn't true. Yes, your point is that the Word of Faith teaching he had wasn't the true gospel and that you have it. And over again, we asked you to demonstrate how anybody else could fucking know that, and you just keep going back and dancing around it. You wanted us to think, well, just like everybody else has done. I've done this show for 15 years. The number of people who would say, hey, you were a Baptist? Oh, that's
you got it wrong.
You weren't part of the right...
Let me show you the right way.
You weren't the right type of Protestant, or you weren't Catholic or whatever else, which is why when Jenna's on the show, you've got an ex-Catholic and an ex-Baptist, and it's, okay, you're going to tell us we both had the wrong one? Which one's the right one? How could we possibly know?
Well, you need
Jehovah's Witnesses?
A charismatic, then you need a Pentecostal.
Pentecostal. That's what Jerry DeWitt would say.
Tongues, right. Yeah.
That's right. My buddy Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't Pentecostal.
You didn't have the full gospel, brother.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
You can make up those excuses all you want.
Oh, boy.
My position is not, you are in fact wrong when you make this claim. It is, how on earth could you possibly show that you're right?
Right.
Where is God? If you think about this, would a God inspire words to be written down in languages that he knows is going to die out and change? I don't know how God couldn't know that, because I'm just a mere human being, and I know that English is going to die out and change at some point in the future. And even if these clips survive on YouTube, they're going to need some kind of translator, and they're probably going to get shit that I said wrong. So in 1,000 years, friends, if you are able to translate my English in 1,000 years, do not trust the translation. That's a boneheaded thing to do. Boneheaded is a way of saying irrational, unrealistic, illogical, not just that you have, it's that maybe your brain isn't functioning or is solidified at that point. Not literally, but metaphorically. And oh crap, how are they going to translate metaphors?
Parables.
It's weird. It's these people wholeheartedly, and you and I both believe this as well.
Oh, yeah, taught the Bible for
God
years.
conveyed this. This is God's instruction book for all of us.
It never occurred to me what a poor job he did. I mean, until I got on this side of it and looked back and say, okay, if Jesus really walked around thinking that what he was saying was going to be used as words to live by, instructions for life and death, serious shit, really important stuff. Can we have somebody take some notes anywhere? Really?
There's that meme of, hey, somebody write this down because I don't want 4 different versions
what
of
the
this.
Hell?
You know.
Or maybe wait a few years until there's a recorder available.
Well, you mentioned during Talk Heathen that, you look at the 10 Commandments and you got prohibitions against graven images, but not slavery.
Yeah.
And if you read through the rest of the 613 of the...
Still not in there.
Hey, why are we so concerned about shellfish and pork?
And
why are we mixed fabrics? Don't wear that polycotton blend.
I'm going to give you some instruction on how to beat your slave.
Yeah.
Right. No. That's wrong.
And you're my chosen people. I'd like you to go over and slaughter that entire village down the road, but
even the children.
Even the children, but keep the virgin girls for yourself.
And you want to talk to me about morality? I don't think so.
Yeah. That dog don't.
Well, we're getting riled up, aren't we?